welcome to Or Something. It's a podcast where we cover the origin stories of a certain topic or something. I'm Kristen, and this is Karla.
Hi. You'll get that introduction someday.
I will not. I can't. You guys, please write to us. Tell me what to say in that beginning part. It's so painful. You're of no help over there, Giggly.
Giggly?
Tell me what to say.
Yeah.
Tell me what to say and I'll say it.
No, you know what to say. It's just you stumble over, three words every time?
Because it sounds dumb to me. Because I want to say, the reason why is because I want to say or something so many times in it. Like, I use the word something all the time for everything, which is why we named the podcast Or Something. Because you and I literally say it in every sentence.
Yeah.
Or something. I know. But... So when I've said it before, like when I just say it naturally, whatever introduction, I end up saying something like 7 times in it, and it just sounds weird to me. So then I overthink it. You guys, it's a whole thing.
He barely said you guys.
You guys.
The robots are back.
Yeah. Hello, my friend. How was your week? How's your mom doing? Is she okay after that fall?
She's better. She's still struggling big time, but she's better. I'm trying to think of my week. I didn't think of what to say, I bought a gingerbread house for myself.
Did you?
I was going to splurge on a fancy one from the bakery that shall not be named. That's changing, and I'm mad at them. You know what? It's like a fancy gingerbread house, and it was a kit. So you still build it, and it came with fancy marshmallows and all this kind of. I was like, okay, but it was $75.
Holy cow!
And I could price out each part, right? Because they had a pack's worth of just separate ginger cookies, and the little gumdrops and like a couple of Kit Kat bars, the icing. I did all the, I could do it, right? Where I was like, that would cost $10 if they sold it separately. That would cost $10. And so, it fairly added up to $75. But I'm like, I'm going to go to Sobeys.
Get a $10.
Yeah. Well, it used to be $10. Now they're all like $16, $17.
Oh, geez.
For the same garbage. Although they went on sale pretty much right away. So I got mine on sale because I'm a cheap bastard. For like $13. I'm like, yes.
I think it's so crazy that back in the olden days, when we were kids, the olden days when I say that. We're not old. I'm feeling really old. Yeah.
I
know. But back in that time, stuff never, ever went on sale before Christmas, ever. There were never sales before Christmas. So you had to wait until Boxing Day, and then stuff would go on sale after Christmas. But beforehand, never.
And legitimate sale, not the classic scam now where they actually raise original prices.
They raise the prices and then put it on sale for the same amount. Yeah.
It's amazing.
But now that we also have Black Friday, which we never had growing up because that was always an American thing. It was never Canadian. Now we have Black Friday and stuff just is perpetually on sale at all times. So all the Christmas stuff, everything sells out like crazy because everything's just always on sale.
And then now,
it's so weird.
When they have the kind of pre-Christmas sales that made sense, for gift buying, right, to incentivize people to be get this for a gift for someone. Those aren't on sale anymore. And I'm like, so I'm not buying things full price before Christmas. I certainly don't care after Christmas. I'm not going to get a gingerbread house after Christmas. I need it now to stave off insanity before Christmas, right?
Yeah.
I don't know and it's so funny. You know how, I'm kind of this isn't a segue, whatever, brain dead. In the baking shows, they talk about almost construction gingerbread, how it's, stronger and... It's still edible.
75% cardboard.
Basically. And that's the gingerbread I crave and love the most, the garbage kind from the boxes where you build a house, right? But I learned a trick. If you put the pieces in a bag, like a Ziploc bag.
Yeah, and dry it
They get all soft.
Oh.
After a while.
Ooh, see, that's the thing for me. I like soft cookies. I don't like hard things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like to have to break my teeth on gingerbread.
I mean, I stole a little gingerbread man already. The house isn't built or anything, but I'm like, screw it. I was stressed before this podcast. I'm like, give me gingerbread man. And so I ate it gleefully, but my teeth are almost shattered. So
yeah.
Like, Merry Christmas.
Christmas, you're going to the dentist and it won't be on sale.
I went to the dentist once this year. Thank you very much. I'm good. I'm never going again.
I hate the dentist.
I got a freaking gold tooth.
Did you?
Do you know how that makes me feel? Like a Russian
It would have been better if
mobster.
it was a front tooth that was gold.
You know, I'm kind of secretly sad that it isn't a front tooth. They wouldn't have done it probably.
Probably
right? 'Cause
not.
they have all their enamel. But I kind of would love to be ridiculous and have like a legitimate gold tooth. But then
if
I'd
you
be
were
mugged.
to go through the x-ray machine at an airport, would it go off because of your gold tooth? That'd be cool.
I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't know if it's enough.
Then what's the point?
If it does, though, I mean, that's going to be fun. They stop me anytime I go through
Really?
security. They stop me and they do that annoying cotton Q-tip swab on your belly button.
Oh, what the...
Or waistband or whatever it is.
Why?
You've never had that?
No.
Oh, my God. I don't know why.
Why?
It's just
What
they
are you
pull you over and they
in your
swab.
belly button?
Well, not belly button. It's like on your waistband. But I don't know. But they swab you there.
Weird.
Yeah. And I've been swabbed, I think, twice. And I'm usually pulled over.
I'm almost never pulled over. It's
Not
great
fair.
because I'm super confident when I go through. I always like make eye contact. I smile. I'm overly
Yeah.
prepared. I'm the one in the line that has her shoes off already well in advance.
Yeah, I'm prepared, but I must be, because I don't want to make eager eye contact because then they think I'm covering something, right? So I try to act as casual as possible.
I'm not like overly
Which is why I'm pulled over.
trying to convince them, but I'm just like, I'm very confident where I'm like, okay, hi, cool. Yeah, okay, let's go do this.
I am a sack of nerves. I'm so nervous
probably
before
why.
security. Oh, I know. Like, I'm amazed I don't leave a trail of like just sweat all the way down the thing. Like, it's...
I'm super impatient. I get really irritated with people in front of me. Like the last time I flew, which was now years ago, but the people in front of me. Okay, when you're standing in the line going through security, you can see what other people are doing. So, like, watch. If other people are taking their shoes off, you better be prepared to take your shoes off as well. Everybody's doing it. Don't act surprised when you get there and they tell you to do it.
Or just have easy to remove stuff. Like, me, I'll keep my shoes on pretty for most of the time.
And don't, like, act shocked.
Doesn't
like
kick 'em
it's
off.
the first thing you've ever seen in your life. Two people right in front of me, and of course I got put into the line right behind them when they could have sent me to any other lineup, but I have to go right behind them, and they've both got their full wheelie like carry-on bags. Now they had seen there were all these people with laptops. They had seen that all these people with laptops had to take them out and turn them on for the security people.
Oh, I didn't know you had to do that.
Yeah, because I think people were doing fake electronics to try to like get it through or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know. So there were multiple people that had done that. And these people did not have their bags open. Their laptops were on the very bottom of their bags. So they each had to open their little suitcases, were acting super surprised, like took forever doing it. Their laptops were on the bottom of their bags. They had to pull them out. And the whole time they were questioning, they're like, oh, I didn't know we had to, like all this stuff. I'm like, were you not paying attention to literally the person right in front of them had to also do it? I was so mad and so irritated. I was like, I would be the worst if I was a security person at the airport. I just would want to smack people. Like, I would be awful. I'd be fired immediately.
The nice thing with that, though, is you don't need good customer service. Like, I went to the Lego store yesterday.
That's a good point.
And I got some little Legos for my nephew and crying because I wanted them all for myself. But the girl was so lightning fast that I didn't even have a chance. Like, I was slow. Let's be honest. I'm not going to pretend I was a hero here. But, like, I was looking for my points card, right? That you can use at the Lego store. And I found it, and it was... the transaction was already done. And I'm like, do you still accept points or do points or whatever? The look she gave me, she almost murdered me. I was standing there quietly, like, trying not to giggle, because I'm like, I know I shouldn't pull out this points card now, but I want the point, because I didn't realize the total was going to be like $50 or something, right?
Yeah. And like, get those points.
That's a lot of points, right?
That's her problem for being so fast.
And she, in such a huff, was like, She had to, I think, return the stuff and then it was the whole thing. And
that'll teach her. She should ask people if they have a points card before she rings them up.
She should have. And also, even if something is driving you insane and annoying you, don't show it on your face.
Although, to be fair, in retail, do you know what the crap those poor people have to deal with?
I do, but that's no excuse.
That's true.
That's your job, to be fake. Right? Just put on a fake smile and be like, sure, I'm going to kill you, but...
Can I tell you what I did this week?
Yes, I'm sorry. I got carried away.
No, this makes me think of it. It wasn't in my mind until just now and thinking of somebody getting annoyed with me in a transaction type scenario. It was so embarrassing, but also so stupid and funny. So I had to get an MRI done on Tuesday. And so I went and I know this like parking lot at the hospital, like I have to go there regularly. So it's like, I know where I'm going and how it works. But with COVID or whatever, I don't know why they have it recently that they aren't charging for parking there. Like normally you have to pay like $5. So they're not charging, but they still have the arm that goes up. And now they're making you stop and like talk to somebody for them to make sure that you're actually a patient there or a doctor or whatever kind of thing, right? That you're not just a random person parking there, but you've never had to do that before, ever.
Okay.
And I didn't see the people in front of me actually stop and talk to the person. And like their window was just a tiny bit open. And there's always somebody sitting in there, but you never have to talk to them. And all I saw was the sign that said no charge. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll just pull forward and I'm sure the arm will lift. And the guy behind me was like right on my butt. Like he was right behind me so I couldn't like back up. And like the lady in the booth was so mad. She like smacked on her window to get my attention because I'm just sitting there trying to like waiting for the arm to go up like a moron. Like it was so stupid on my part. If I was this poor woman, I would have been so mad at me. Like, are you dumb or what's happening here? Like,
it's not dumb though.
So the woman had to get out of the thing and come and she's like, what are you here? And then I couldn't figure out because I got all flustered. I was like rolling down the wrong windows, like the back window. And then I was putting it into reverse thinking I could back up, but there was a car behind me. And then I forgot to put it into drive, so I almost drove into the car behind. I was a hot mess. You guys, it was brutal. But she was so irritated. Like she was so pissed off at me. And did not even attempt to hide it at all. Like she was, and I said, I apologize. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I was like kind of laughing. I'm like, I don't know what, I'm obviously not thinking today. Like I don't ever do stuff like that. And she just didn't even crack it. Like she was pissed.
Oh.
So much so that on the way out, I was like, I didn't even want to make eye contact with her. Like as I drove out, it was so funny. I was like, this is awful. I was so embarrassed by it. But then I wonder, like, what about all those Karens out there that like intentionally cause these scenes and intentionally cause these arguments and stuff? I'm like, how do they not feel embarrassed by that? I don't understand.
And I don't like when people don't let up or don't show some kindness when you do show embarrassment or laughter or like a bit of a sense of humor about it, right? It's like,
like I acknowledge, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was doing. Like,
clearly it was a mistake, right? And so and some people are they won't let mistakes go.
Yeah.
And it's just, okay, side note, speaking of kind of mistakes, but also driving by windows, listener, got hi Fred,
hi,
Frank,
Fiji.
Fiji, Prison Frank.
And Prison Fred.
Oh, are they two different people? Have we decided? Anyway.
I think so. I mean, they could be in prison in Fiji. I'm sure they have prisons there.
Ooh, that's scandalous.
It's a whole new twist.
I know. Yeah. But we mentioned that this place called Tim Hortons here, a cafe, they sell something called Tim Biebs. And we joked at your little donuts, and we joked that they should call them Bieber balls. And
they do call them Bieber balls.
But they're Tim Biebs. So you're telling me. So Kristen told me that she went to the drive-thru. Will you tell it?
I went to the drive-thru at Tim Hortons because, so my husband watches a lot of TikTok, and he said there's a trend on there. He's like, everybody's thinks it's hilarious that they're calling them Bieber balls, and everyone wants to get their hands on Bieber balls. And he was telling me that. I was like, what are you talking about? And I was kind of laughing. I'm like, haha, Bieber balls, whatever, because we had talked about it.
Oh my gosh, so we came to that conclusion just on our own?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Okay. Yeah. And then he was like,
it's trending.
He's like, no, if you order them. And I was like, no, let's not. And then he was like, I'm doing it. So we went through and he ordered Bieber balls. And the guy working at Tim Hortons just repeated it. He's like, okay, 1 order of Bieber balls. And we were like, oh, okay. But if you guys go onto TikTok and like search for Bieber balls, there are pretty funny ones where like some people go through and like they ask for it and record it, and like some people working at Tim Hortons really like have a good laugh about it. I'm sure they're kind of tired of hearing it now, but when it first started it was pretty funny.
I didn't realize it was a TikTok thing. I thought you just said it and that the worker was just so casual about it. That they were
he was super casual. And Greg and I were both looking at each other like, did he just repeat it right after us?
Oh,
but then they messed up our entire order and we didn't end up getting any anyway.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I was hoping for a review on air.
I know.
Live on air.
The only one I want to try, okay, I don't really want to try any of them, but if I were to try one of them, it would be the sour cream chocolate chip. Because sour cream donuts are my favorite, and I am a big fan of chocolate chips as well.
You know what I miss? Chocolate chip pancakes. I haven't had them. I tried making them, I don't know, a couple years ago.
Chocolate chip pancakes.
You do. Mm-hmm. But I tried making some for my nephew. He did not care for them. Like,
that kid's a freak of nature. What's wrong with him?
I know.
He's dead to me.
But they were too sweet for me. I'm like, I'm going to go jump off a bridge because
they are very
those
sweet.
Are too sweet for me. Mm-hmm. They are. Come on, they're good sweet. But
they're so tasty.
Anyway.
Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about something I did this week that was super fun, and it's going to segue into my topic because I couldn't resist.
That's too fancy.
It's super fancy, you guys.
I resent this moment in time.
Karla will leave for the next half hour while I talk.
And everyone would be like, yes! Because Kristen and I both established that neither one of us listens to my part of the podcast.
No.
I can't stand my own voice, and Kristen, I don't know, Kristen just
I feel like
me.
I need to be funnier. I don't hate you. At least I never tell you straight to your face that I do. No, come on. Okay, you guys, this week it was my friend's birthday, and we took her to a magic speakeasy, which was like this little hidden, like it looked like just like a curio shop, kind of like secondhand store for like kids' games and toys and stuff like that. And then you go like in the back and they gave you like this doorknob, and they're like, if you press it on the door, you'll magically go through to this space. So you had to figure out, we were standing there for forever trying to figure out where this door was. It was just the like one part of the wall that we had to walk through, and then it went into like this theater kind of space. It was really cool. Like it was very like magical and like cool. And if you guys are in the Vancouver area, you should go to it. It's called Hidden Wonders. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's like super fun. And so we went in this little theater and actually watched like a real magic show by a real magician, and he did like all these cool tricks, and I felt like a little kid. It was like this magical kind of thing, even though some of it we could be like, oh, I bet he did it that way, or that's how they did it. It still felt so cool, and we all were looking at each other like, what just happened? How did he do that? And it was like so much fun and made me feel like such a child again, which I think is a feeling that is very fleeting these days. Like it's really hard to get into that mode of like that sense of wonder again, you know?
Oh, for sure.
So it was really cool. And he did one trick with something, and he talked about the origin of it a little bit, and it got me thinking like, ooh, I want to find out about it. And so this week I am doing the origin of the Rubik's Cube. Karla's face.
No, that's on my list.
Is it?
Yes, because my nephew watches these kids on like YouTube. They have entire channels dedicated, like they're Rubik's Cube, like little geniuses.
Yeah.
And you should see all the different shapes and like how fast they are.
They
have
the crazy ones now. Yeah.
It's so fascinating. There's one guy that's really funny. I just unfortunately forgot his name, but oh my goodness, like his videos are so funny. So I guess that's a whole thing now, but I love it.
Oh my gosh. And that's like my niece, who is the same age kind of as Flynn. I think they're like, 6 months apart or something like that.
Yeah.
She, this summer, was super into Rubik's Cubes. And it was cute because, like, my older nephew, he was helping her kind of solve them. So they would get so into it. And then he found an app. There's an app on his phone that if you, like, take a picture or you scan, like, the pattern that's on it, that it'll tell you how to solve it. Like, what? Yeah, so they were figuring that out, and they both were like so into it. It was so fun to watch. Where I'm like, whoa, I never got so into Rubik's Cubes. I know my brother was, but
I enjoyed moving them around, but not solving them. Because if I tried too hard, I couldn't do it. I never could, and so I'd get mad.
I could only ever do it if I was like not really trying that hard to do it, and then I'd be like, I only have to twist it one more time, and it's there.
They just made me feel stupid, and anything that makes me feel stupid, I lose it.
That's why I don't do crossword puzzles. I hate them so much.
I love those, even though
or play Scrabble. I hate Scrabble. But I love Boggle. I don't know.
That's the one point of like contention probably in our whole friendship, that you don't like Scrabble. It kills me.
I hate it so much.
But then we play Sorry, and I beat you every time, and I love it.
You son of a bitch. Okay, so the Rubik's Cube... Sorry. The most Canadian game ever. The Rubik's Cube, for those people who don't know what it is, it's a 6-sided cube, so it's 3 by 3 by 3 little cubes. It's comprised of smaller cubes that can twist and move. Each small cube has colors on each side of it, and by solving a Rubik's Cube, it means that you've been able to twist and turn all the small cubes to be the same color on each side of the large 6-sided cube. There are 43 quintillion possible ways to arrange the small squares.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like an insane number of ways that you can arrange this.
Oh my gosh.
So to put this into perspective, if you had a Rubik's Cube, for each permutation of the cube, you could cover the Earth's surface 275 times, or you could stack them in a tower 261 light years high.
What?
Isn't that crazy? So it's like insane.
Whoa.
Okay, so there are 2 precursors to the Rubik's Cube that are like similar things that people got patents for beforehand.
Oh, no way.
So in 1970, Larry Nichols, he invented...
Wait, that's disappointing. I thought it was literally just the invention of somebody named Rubik.
Well,
and I'm so sad. I know it is, but I'm just saying that there's a predecessor.
No, it's...
Okay, I'll wait.
They're the same, but they're very different, and it wasn't for the same reasons. Oh. So Larry Nichols, he invented a 2 by 2 by 2 puzzle with pieces that were rotatable in groups. He filed a patent for it in Canada and then got it in the States. He's American, though. I don't know why he got a Canadian patent, I think. He's like, I'll try my... Yeah, exactly. So he was granted his patent in 1972, so 2 years before the Rubik's Cube was invented. Oh. Now, it was held together with magnets, and it was like a smaller one. It was just 2 by 2, like it wasn't like a big cube. So... it wasn't the same thing, but he later, once the Rubik's Cube got really big, he was one that was like, he actually sued them eventually and like tried to say that they stole stuff, and they didn't steal it, but
they couldn't.
He had patents, I guess, to parts of it or something like that. Even though the Rubik's Cube doesn't deal with magnets, it's like it's built differently.
Yeah.
So also in 1970, this guy named Frank Fox applied to patent a sliding puzzle on a spherical surface with at least 3 by 3 arrays. It was intended to be used for the game X's and O's, and he ended up getting his patent in 1974. So it's similar, but not the same.
I like that they just give out patents to stupid toys, basically.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
I mean, yeah, of course, but like... It's just funny.
I know, it is funny when you think of like patents for like just a toy, right? Or a puzzle or whatever.
Yeah. Necessary, but like in light of all the, scientific amazing inventions, right? It's kind of like...
I know, right? Okay, so Erno Rubik is the guy who invented the Rubik's Cube.
Erno? Like
Erno. E-R-N-O. Erno.
That's the best name I've ever heard.
Isn't that cool? I like it.
Except for that other one from that other episode that I don't remember right now.
Kristen? That was such a lame joke.
It was pretty bad.
You're supposed to say no. That was hilarious. I've never heard such a funny joke.
It's me. Never.
Don't be honest with me. Okay. Erno Rubik was a professor of interior design and architecture at the Academy of Applied Arts and Crafts in Budapest, Hungary.
What?
He taught a class called Descriptive Geometry, which involved teaching his students to use two-dimensional images to represent three-dimensional shapes and problems. He created the first working Rubik's Cube prototype in 1974 as a tool to explain these different geometrical things to his students. Yes.
I thought he was going to be a mathematician.
That's what the magician, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong about this, but I think that the magician said that it was invented by a mathematician and to solve all these problems, but it wasn't. He was an architecture professor. Isn't that crazy? I know.
World of Wonders or whatever you're called, magical wonders. You got your information wrong.
So the unique design of the cube allowed him to build something paradoxical. It was a solid, static object that was also fluid. The prototype was made out of wood and was quite large. So if you can even just Google it or whatever and look at the early prototype, it was like wood, and they actually, because it was so large and it was quite heavy, he ended up kind of like curving the edges of it, like cutting the like corners off a little bit just to try to reduce the mass a little bit. And it's funny because he didn't realize that it was actually a puzzle until he scrambled the cube and he tried to put it back together. He didn't realize that it could actually be some kind of puzzle because that's not what he was building it for.
Oh my gosh.
He ended up painting the faces of the squares yellow, blue, red, orange, green, and white in order to make the movement of the squares more visible. So he only painted them just so he could see, okay, I'm taking this and I'm moving it into this position next type of thing.
So this is for an interior... No, what was the class again? Interior
architecture.
Design?
So no, it was for... Okay. The actual class was called Descriptive Geometry. So it was dealing with how to take something, take the three-dimensional and represent it in a two-dimensional image. So he was trying to create something that could show them like a three-dimensional thing.
That's hilarious. That's just the funniest thing I've ever heard for a lesson plan.
Isn't that crazy? I'm going to
create this giant, cumbersome wooden tool.
It took Erno... so he didn't realize that it was actually a puzzle until he scrambled it and he tried to put it back to what it was. And when he did scramble that first cube, it took him over a month to solve it and to get it back to its original state. So eventually he ended up making it out of plastic and added 54 colorful stickers instead of putting the paint. And he ended up calling it the Magic Cube. So it started out life as the Magic Cube. And in 1975, he patented the Magic Cube as a puzzle. So that was on the patent. By 1977, the Magic Cube was being manufactured in small batches and was becoming increasingly popular within Hungary. The first run of production made 5,000 cubes, and 2 years later, over 300,000 cubes had sold in Hungary.
Just Hungary?
Yes. No. And the reason why just Hungary, it hadn't made its way to any other countries at that time, because at the time Hungary was under communist rule. And so imports and exports were really tightly controlled. So it started in Hungary and got popular there. What are you giggling about?
It's just such a benign seeming toy that, like, you know, of all the things to regulate, you know.
I know.
Like, no, that's not leaving. But
of course they don't want someone to be making a ton of money off of something, right?
Very true. Very true.
Oh, who knows? I don't know. I don't know anything about communism, actually. But so the little loophole that they found was to demonstrate, like, to kind of make it more popular, like, around the world, was to demonstrate the Magic Cube at international toy fairs. So in 1979, a businessman named Tibor Lachy or something, I don't know, saw the potential of this puzzle, and in an attempt to popularize it, took the cube to a toy fair in Nuremberg, Germany. So again, it's like the common thread that we have through all of our topics so far is like it took some businessman to see the potential in something and just blow it up.
I wonder if he crossed paths with Barbie Mattel lady.
Oh my gosh, probably.
The same toy fair. It's like different years or something.
Oh my God. Damn it. All this like stuff's going down at this toy fair in Nuremberg.
Right?
We need to make a movie about it. It's just the most boring movie. It's just a bunch of people walking around like filling a tote bag with free stuff. But I love it because I love free stuff. Did you see what they got? I'm such a sucker for those.
Your dad is like the number one like viewer of the movie.
Yeah. He's the executive producer of the sequel. Let's go to this dental fair.
A fair. Let's go to the dental fair, Mommy. It's gonna be fun.
Oh God.
Like no cotton candy.
Yeah, it's the most boring place.
Here's your apple, Tommy.
God. Not even.
Crappy. Yeah.
What a crappy candle. Okay. At this toy fair, it was noticed by this guy named Tom Kramer, who was a game inventor, entrepreneur, marketer, and publisher. And Tom Kramer's vision was to commercialize the Magic Cube and sell it to the world. He ends up negotiating a worldwide distribution license with the Ideal Toy Company in 1980. So a year after he finds it.
Oh, that's the name of the
fair.
Company.
Yeah, the name of the company is the Ideal Toy Company. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess that would be a little misleading. I can see the
it was like the Ideal Toy Company.
Capitalized.
I'm like, which one?
So all of this was done. I know I'm not mentioning Rubik in this, but he was like on board with all of it. He's like, yes, great. You have this idea. Great. Do it. Like it was all, he was included. They didn't steal it from him or anything. Like it wasn't like Barbie. So he was good. He was in on it.
Oh, good.
The Ideal Toy Company wanted the puzzle to have a recognizable name and thought that Magic Cube was too generic. So after like brainstorming a bunch of different names, they ended up naming it after the inventor, and it became the Rubik's Cube at that point. And fun fact, some other names for this that they were throwing around was the Gordian Knot and Inca Gold. I do not know why. But I'm glad they went with Rubik's Cube because it works. Oh my gosh.
Inca Gold.
These people. Okay, so in 1980, the Rubik's Cube traveled around the world to toy fairs in London, Paris, and New York. Also, this really made me want to go to a toy fair because how fun would that be?
Right.
To see like all these brand new things and like work for a toy store and buy up new stuff. I don't know. It sounds awesome. The initial sales of the Rubik's Cube were modest, but they started to grow once the Ideal Toy Company launched a TV and newspaper ad campaign. So here we go with the marketing again. By 1981, the Rubik's Cube had become a craze, and it's estimated that between 1980 and 1983, around 200 million Rubik's Cubes were sold worldwide. Isn't that
I'm not surprised because even I had one in my house, and I don't know how we got it.
Everyone had one. Yeah, who bought it? I don't remember buying one in for our house. I never asked for one but somehow.
Me neither.
I'm sure we had multiple ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just there.
It was just there. It's like a slinky.
Oh my God. It was magic.
Yeah. Yeah. In March 1981, a speed cubing competition, or championship, was organized by the Guinness Book of World Records. So this is all in 81. So this is happening super fast. Like it was first seen at the toy fair in 79.
Obsessed with speed competitions. It was with the typewriter. Now with the Rubik's Cube, it's like, okay, we get it. You're fast.
Being fast doesn't make you right. But it does in this instance. Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so most people could only solve two sides of the cube, so people started publishing books about how to solve the cube. One of these people was named Patrick Bossert, or Bossert. Bossert, I don't know. An American kid. I think he was American. A 13-year-old boy who wrote a book called You Can Do the Cube, and it sold 1.5 million copies. And he was not the only one to write books that became bestsellers.
Oh my gosh.
At one point in 1981, 3 of the top 10 best-selling books in the U.S. were about how to solve the Rubik's Cube.
What?
3 of the top 10 books in the entire country. I mean, it's the U.S.,
Side
so
note,
it's not saying much.
I was like, oh, that kid at 13 had like $1.3 million to his name. I'm like, it's not like each book cost just $1.
I wasn't a principal when I was 1.
Yes, I just saw that episode. That's what I thought of.
Oh, that Simpsons episode.
So that kid was a millionaire anyway.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
When he's 13. On how to solve the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
But now, as I said, there's an app for it, right? Like, there's...
Oh, I know. And, like, all those YouTube channels, these kids are, you know, these channels are monetized. They're, like, living in mansions probably just because they can solve a Rubik's Cube. I'm like, why didn't I do that?
I know. What have we done with our lives?
YouTube, right? Ugh.
See, and if we did it now, we could market ourselves as, like, middle-aged people, middle-aged women. We need to target our niche market. Fijians, middle-aged Fijians. I don't know. You guys, I'm going nowhere fast.
Our podcast number went down to 350.
Okay, so in 1981, the Museum of Modern Art in New York exhibited a Rubik's Cube, like, in the museum as part of
81?
Yeah.
Did anything happen outside of 1981 with the Rubik's Cube?
Wait.
It's like...
It goes down, and then it comes back again. But so in 1981, also, this made me laugh so damn hard that I actually had to research it on its own. ABC Television developed a cartoon show called Rubik, the Amazing Cube. I did not know about this. I never saw it. I mean, they didn't have that many episodes, but the show features a magic Rubik's Cube named Rubik. It's real original. His name's Rubik. Who could fly through the air and had other special powers. And Rubik could only come alive when he was in a solved state. And there was some, like, he fell out of the bag of some evil magician or something like that. And then they had to fight against this evil. It's like some big storyline plot. It's ridiculous.
So, imagine being one of those kids who can't solve it, like me. I would never get helped by Magic Rubik, right?
No, it would be useless because he couldn't help you. The magician,
also,
evil
couldn't
magician,
his magic just be solving problems? Can that just be his skill?
Why does he have to fly? It doesn't make sense. It's not connected to anything.
Exactly.
And you should see. You need to go Google a picture of it because it's really funny. He has gigantic feet and gigantic arms. Like, it's not. He's not even like a suave, cool
Magic
Rubik. It's
just
Rubik the Amazing Cube.
Oh, the Amazing Cube.
Amazing.
Not even magic. Oh, for the love of... All right, continue. I like Google. Rubik,
anyway,
the Amazing Cube. Yeah.
That just shows, like, how crazy huge it was at the time that everyone's trying to cash in on the Rubik's Cube.
That's insane. Yeah.
So
no.
Do you see a picture?
Okay. You know what? If you do not want to have nightmares, do not Google Rubik the Amazing Cube.
Isn't that awful? I feel like they could have done so many other things with it, right? Like cute
Why
little
did they put
eyes.
a head attached to its... His cube head could have been his head, not an attached baby head.
Yeah, and his mouth opening could have been like... I know, it's terrible.
That's just wrong.
It's bad, you guys. And someone's going to, like, write in and be like, it's my favorite show.
And we'll be like...
He was my best friend when I was a kid.
Banned from the podcast.
Yeah. Can we do that? That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. In 1982, the first Rubik's Cube World Championship took place in Budapest. The winner of this was named Min Tai from the U.S., who solved the Rubik's Cube in 22.95 seconds.
What?
By 1983, the craze kind of died out. So people went mental for it. Like, completely mental. World championships, speed cubing, best-selling books, a TV show, everything. And then by 1983, it just kind of, like, petered out. The craze was over, and sales had plummeted.
Oh.
Now, the cubes continue to be sold in the 80s and 90s, as we well know, because we had them in our houses somehow. And then in the early 2000s, there was, like, a massive Rubik's Cube revival. They were using... They started using the Rubik's Cube in math programs in the States because of the algorithms that you could learn from to solve it. So they did actually end up using it for math applications, especially with kids, because it was a really good visual way to do it. And eventually, it ended up being the best-selling toy in Walmart in 2015 with over $111 million in retail sales.
Whoa.
Which is crazy. So yeah, like it ended up having this other revival. The other revival's kind of boring. We kind of know, how it ended now, and it's kind of like the Rubik's Cube is just kind of part of what we know about it. Like it's just kind of always there.
Yeah.
So I think it's a toy that's just kind of always going to be around. But the major craze, like it happened so fast and went so, like it skyrocketed so much.
That's so surprising.
The origin of it. And now I just have some little facts at the end just that are fun. So it's estimated that less than 5.8% of the world's population can solve the Rubik's Cube.
I don't feel so bad now.
Yeah, of those guys, they're all in championships apparently and doing speed cubing and whatever. They're like really like owning it and going for it.
As they should.
As they should. In 2015, Lucas Eder was the first person to solve the cube in less than 5 seconds. In 2018, Yu Shangdu of China set the world record of solving it in 3.47 seconds. And that's still the current record. The current world record is solving the cube in 3.47 seconds.
See, that feels like just luck on somewhere. It's like, because you have to scramble it, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I wonder if they would like, with computer stuff, or I don't know, just really like a lot of patients, if they scramble it the same for everyone. Wouldn't that be fair? Because if it's just scrambled randomly, then it's kind of like, oh, look, lucky me, I solved it in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Right?
Could be. I mean, you should go tell Yu Shengdu of China that and ask him. It's just
to get it like punch in the face.
Felix Zemdegs of Australia holds the record for the fastest one-handed solve at 6.88 seconds, with solving it with just one hand.
Okay, now that's just too much already.
Oh, just wait. As of 2019, Muhammad Kohli of India can solve it in 15.56 seconds using only his feet. That
I don't mind, because then it's kind of like for, I don't know what the politically correct term is. Otherly abled? What's the thing now? It kind of is like an inspiration for people who can't use their hands or arms.
What's funny is that some people get really mad about this. They think it's disrespectful. And I'm like, why do you care that much? It's a toy.
It's
not
a Rubik's
fair.
Cube.
I know. I think like 15 seconds to solve it with your feet, like that's insane. Like, how do you do that? How do you even manipulate your toes that way? Anyway, I think it's impressive. That's why I put it in there.
Good.
7-year-old Chan Hong Lik solved a Rubik's Cube while blindfolded in 2016.
See, that I don't get.
What do you mean?
Oh, like it probably had like special bumpy stickers on it.
No, like he was blindfolded. So he memorized the placement of the squares first, where they started out, and then he like had a blindfold on and couldn't see it as he was trying to solve it.
What?
And it took him 2 minutes and 21 seconds to finish it. So obviously took longer, but like still impressive that he could do it. Because some of these books out there, it's almost become like chess, where they're like, some of these books are like, if you start with this position in the beginning, these are the moves you have to do to get to the next position. Like,
how do you memorize all those moves? Can you imagine?
I don't know.
70s. At least with chess, you're kind of reacting a little bit. You obviously plan ahead, but there's only, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
But with this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So there was a 3-year-old girl in China who solved the cube in 114 seconds.
Oh.
It's cute. She's like, there's like a little screenshot of her like solving it. She's sitting like in like a high chair type thing or something. I'm sure she's like locked in there or something. That's terrible. And for our very last point, a lot of people have experienced compulsive behavior with trying to solve the Rubik's Cube, which at one point actually led to the establishment of Cubaholics Anonymous. And that is the origin of the Rubik's Cube. Because they can't stop. They like just play with, like they can't just let it go. They can't sit not try to solve it.
Oh, that's like me with jigsaw puzzles. I will, like, it takes a lot for me. Like, I don't need to go to Puzzlers Anonymous or anything.
Are you
but
sure?
like,
Are you trying to tell me something right now? It's
maybe
okay to reach out for help.
Okay.
You have puzzle pieces all stuck to your face as we talk.
But I know for a while there, like, it's just, I can't. Like, I have to finish it. Now I pace myself because I want to have a puzzle that lasts for a long time.
Yeah.
But back in the day, I'd stay up till like 2 or 3 in the morning because I'm like, no, I need to finish this.
Yeah,
like,
you couldn't just leave it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I think this was for, where it's like people who couldn't just like leave it and not keep trying to solve it.
But they probably are the kind of people who, like, it would transfer to other things too, not just the Rubik's Cubes. It's kind of funny that they would like focus on that.
But that's why it's like a Cubaholics Anonymous. Like, it seems so specific. I feel like there's some other issues feeding into that, like, specific behavior.
Oh, for sure. It's not its own problem, people.
Yay, and that's it.
That was really, really good. And it's so crazy because it's on my list.
That's crazy.
Potential things.
What were the odds? Like, it would have been crazy if we had done it in the same week. Sorry, I stole your thing inadvertently. It's the magician's
I like
fault.
it. And hearing it, I'm like kind of glad I didn't do the research because there was a lot to it. And I like simple. You know, when I go onto Wikipedia and I just read what's there. Yeah. And this time, it's going to be just what was on one guy's, like,
random
paper.
blog. Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I did a lot of different stuff. But.
What is it?
All right. Okay, so a little thing. The reason I came to this topic is because for season 2, I want to try to expand my horizons and, like, look for the origin stories or inventions or people from other parts of the world. Like, because I've noticed a lot of my research is really...
It's very North
Western-centric.
Yeah.
Very North America. Yeah.
Same, yeah.
And not because of, it's stuff that I just thought of randomly, right? So I didn't do it on purpose, but I keep thinking, like, come on, I have to, like, there has to be more out there, right?
I love that,
And I thought, okay, I'm going to do, for my last topic for this season, because we're recording this episode last, I'm going to do just something that feels very purely me, like, just for myself, right? Not international or anything. Okay, disappointment, though. It ended up being a U.S.-centric topic.
Was it how?
Because I could have done the world version, but I'm going to save that, actually.
Okay.
And I could have done the Canadian thing, but I can save that for another time.
Okay.
Today, I'm doing the Endangered Species Act.
No way. What?
I wanted to know how it started.
Was just grumbling so loud.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
Okay, good.
But I wanted to hear like grumbles when you hear endangered species. Ring-tailed lemur. I'm hungry.
Gross. Oh, no. Oh, my God. But Endangered Species Act. That's crazy.
I wanted to know, how did the list start? When did we first start declaring things endangered, right? Because I actually don't know. So,
the only thing I remember as a kid is all we ever talked about was the dodo bird. That was like the mascot of the endangered species thing.
It never came up in my research.
Really? But I think that's like, it was just, I feel like it was a bit of a random focus.
I think
when I was a child.
Yeah, and I think more it's the fact that it was probably species that like became extinct when we, right? It was like close enough to modern. Yeah. History, maybe that's why it was such a topic. Maybe, kind of a
now everything's extinct.
And I'm not saying it wasn't the case for people. Like I'm sure they did think of the dodo, but like, there were. So there is an international thing. So I just want to clarify right now. So when you see if animals are like endangered or threatened, it's under the IUCN Red List, and they have like I think 6 different labels now. So they have like vulnerable, least concern, critically endangered. So they have like different
They've got
levels.
Kind of like categories.
More levels.
Right.
And so IUCN stuff was happening like concurrently, like beside, like at the same time as the American stuff. So it's not like brand new and it's not like much older, but it's its own whole other story that I can do another time. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
If there might be a tiny bit of information that hopefully not. I think it's all American, which is what I want to focus on. But maybe sometimes I noticed in articles people would accidentally use a fact from the history of the IUCN and assume it was for the Endangered Species Act of America, but it's not, right? So hopefully everything's all sorted nicely. I'm just going to do, because I think a huge part of my curiosity is not quite the origin, but I wanted to just explain what it is and how it works.
Okay, cool.
If that's okay with everybody.
You betcha.
Someone says no, and I just do. So, again, I'm focusing on the states. In the U.S., Fish and Wildlife Service oversees the listing and protection of land animals, plants, and freshwater fish. And then the National Marine Fisheries Service oversees marine fish and wildlife. So that's kind of who takes care of it all, right?
Okay.
So, the Endangered Species Act. A species can be endangered or threatened on this, like...
Okay, so those are like the two levels that they've got?
Yeah. So they've got endangered means a species is in danger of extinction throughout all or a significant portion of its range. And threatened means a species is likely to become endangered within the foreseeable future. So threatened is not so bad. Endangered is like the worst.
It's really bad, yeah.
Yeah. All species of plants and animals are eligible for listing except for pest insects. So mosquitoes, I'm guessing, cockroaches, I'm assuming they'll never be listed.
So when you say pest insects, is that like a specific category of insects like that are considered pests?
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder what is on that list. Is it literally just mosquitoes
probably
and cockroaches?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't actually see a list. They just said it that way, so yeah.
Because I was totally going to do the whole thing of like, it's insect racism. You can't, like, everything that serves its purpose.
Definitely the pest ones where, no, I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking the ones where it's inconceivable that their numbers would ever be reduced.
Right. Okay, I see.
Like, I feel like roaches, you can't kill them anyway. It's impossible.
I remember
or maybe a health thing, too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like
I remember as a kid that, I always really wanted to go to Hawaii really badly, but the only thing we ever heard about Hawaii was like they've got cockroaches there, so that when you turn off the lights, like you can hear them, and then you turn the lights back on and they'll scatter because they didn't like the lights. And that was like, I don't know who told me that story or why it was like the thing that I was so ingrained in me about going to Hawaii. Like, it's beautiful there, but you have to deal with this, and why I associated it so much only with Hawaii. Like,
oh my gosh, that's funny.
Crazy. So I think cockroaches and I think Hawaii immediately.
Yeah. I guess we'll always reserve the right to like spray the hell out of them with pesticides or whatever they're called. What are they called? Pesticides?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my brain stopped working. Anyway, animals that are being investigated to be put on to the list is called a candidate species. Okay. When a species is actually on the Endangered Species Act list, it's like a listed species. So not rocket science here. So how a species actually gets listed. So they ask questions, and if the answer to one or more of these questions is yes, then they can listed under the Endangered Species Act. So, of course, they do huge investigation and everything. But, so I'm going to go over the questions because I think they're interesting. Mm-hmm. Has a large percentage of the species' vital habitat been degraded or destroyed? Has the species been overconsumed by commercial, recreational, scientific, or educational uses? Is the species threatened by disease or predation? Do current regulations or legislation inadequately protect the species? Are there other man-made factors threatening the long-term survival of the species? So,
wow, I feel like every single one of those questions is probably so loaded. Like the amount of research and the amount of like information that would have to go in to answer every single any one of those questions is huge.
Oh, for sure. And there's a ton of controversy, which I'll get to at the end there. But so when the animal is listed, they are granted federal protection from the federal government, right?
Okay.
They also try to figure out why it's threatened, and they have like a
little badges saying you can't shoot me.
Right. They have like a little. Yeah.
That'd be so cute.
They have a 3-phase kind of thing where they try to reduce the main threat to the species. The recovery teams monitor the population, and they might even try to breed the animal, like captive breeding programs.
Oh, okay.
And finally, if they're no longer at risk, then they're taken off the list. So
I wonder how often that happens.
I'll get to that.
Ooh.
So they're protected from take, in quotation marks. It's a term used to mean harass, harm, pursue, hunt, shoot, wound, kill, trap, capture, or collect, or to attempt to engage in any such conduct. So you don't mess with an endangered animal. You just
right.
don't.
Okay.
Because it's like, yeah. Illegal. It also protects against interfering with vital breeding or behavioral activities or degrading habitat. And the primary goal of the whole thing is just to make populations healthy so they can be delisted. Okay. So the actual Endangered Species Act was signed by Richard Nixon December 28th, 1973.
Whoa.
He said, nothing is more priceless.
Earlier than I thought it would be.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
maybe
it was actually kind of later. He said, nothing is more priceless and more worthy of preservation than the rich array of animal life with which our country has been blessed. The Endangered Species Act was not the first of its kind, though. It actually replaced the Endangered Species Conservation Act of 1969. Oh. But all of that has a little origin, like a little history to it, which I'm going to get into. Ooh. So I found this great, I don't know what you'd call it, it's just a PDF, but like a flyer thing, I don't know. It was on the wildlifedepartment.com site. It's called A Conservation Timeline, and it was written by Robert Brown, PhD, so some fancy guy. He did this great timeline. I love it. I'm just going to kind of go through some of it for people. Okay, so we go right to early European settlement, so 1500s, 1600s. Yeah. This is an interesting point. So there were an estimated 3 to 5 million Native Americans in the U.S. around this time. He says they hunted and actually, in some cases, decimated populations of large animals around human population centers. That confused me because the narrative has always been that Indigenous people...
that they only use what they need.
That they knew how to live in harmony with the land and with the animals and everything. And so he was arguing that... even when the European settlers started coming along, even though they were like killing things like with their diseases and killing all the indigenous people, that the wildlife populations began to rebound. And I thought, well, that's pretty controversial, right? Like to kind of suggest that. I don't know where he got his information. He didn't really, it was very point for him, this kind of presentation he did. So I'm thinking that's okay. So something there.
That's like very contradictory to what we're taught in a way.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure, like, I feel like there's probably a lot more information there because he says in the area where people lived, but weren't a lot of the Native Americans nomadic, so they would be moving around.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of gray area. He just stated it so definitively, and I'm like, okay. So
I mean, it's something to look into at some point, right?
But here, the Europeans suck anyway because the rebound didn't last. Immigrants cleared land for farming, they cut forests for shipbuilding, and began hunting and trapping for like the European market, right?
Right.
So, for example, in Canada, it said by 1650, beavers had been nearly eliminated from the entire East Coast. Sorry, in the States, they had been almost entirely eliminated. But I know this was a problem in Canada too. We almost eliminated ours. So.
Well, because the beaver pelt hats and stuff were massive.
Yeah. Well, it was actually
and coats and whatever.
It was exactly. It was the European market that was like
that they were like they were making them and then shipping them back to Europe. Yeah.
Crazy. Spanish settlers introduced horses, goats, cattle, sheep, pigs, probably dogs and cats and rats. And in Hawaii, I know mosquitoes were actually brought over as well, and that was a huge problem because way. Hawaii has devastating like bird extinctions and stuff because diseases could now be spread very easily through mosquitoes, and also invasive species were a huge problem. So islands are really, really susceptible to total devastation if people
right.
Just one cat or Simpsons one fox or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Where they go to Australia.
So it was pretty devastating. Wildlife, so the herds started declining, and stupid European people were like, let's blame the wolves and other predators.
Kill it.
So, they went
oh my God.
wild.
Humans are so stupid.
Yeah.
Of all of the animals that are... because we don't see ourselves as animals, and we don't see ourselves as part of the food chain or anything.
Yeah. And we don't consider...
We're so dumb.
Yeah. Like, of course, if you're going to have livestock...
We're the overpopulated animal.
They're going to, like, be picked off, but you can still find ways to, like, live with huge apex predators and have nothing, wrong with your... Like, nothing happened to your livestock. But people here even...
Every other animal on the planet manages to balance itself out.
Yes.
Like, all the ecosystems manage to balance themselves out, except the ones that include humans in them now.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
We are... I was going to say we're a pox on the planet. I don't know if that's right, but it sounded good in my head.
I love it.
We're a pox.
So, let's move to the colonial age.
Oh, my God.
More of the same settler greedy garbage,
It just gets worse. Yeah.
Yeah. So, he said that in the 1700s, there was an estimated 40 to 70 million bison and 10 million pronghorns still roaming in the west of the states. So that's just the western United States. There were like 70 million bison. Right?
Okay.
But at the same time, 1768, the Steller sea cow, which is a manatee, basically, is declared extinct.
In 1768?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
So they already had the concept of extinction, I guess, and like, they were slow.
How did
poor
they
little
know,
guys,
though?
And they ate them all. So.
Sea cows.
I know, right? So then he goes into westward expansion of the 1800s. So you have accounts from like Lewis and Clark who are like, whoa, there's so many grizzly bears and so many herds of buffalo and deer and giant prairie dog towns. So they're just, the West is full of beautiful wildlife, like an abundance of it. This is my favorite thing I've ever read. In 1813, James Audubon recorded a passenger pigeon flock. He estimated at 1 billion birds. And I started laughing so hard because I thought, imagine he just was like exaggerating. It was like there were like 1 billion birds. I know he was probably all scientific and accurate, whatever. But
how could he count that? 1 billion.
Right.
So they were just pigeons, though. You said passenger pigeons? What does that mean? That's just a type of pigeon?
Yes, that's,
Okay, because in my mind, I immediately thought of, like, the pigeons that carry messages to people. And I just imagined 1 billion pigeons carrying messages. Because so many... it was bad. It's like, wow, people have a lot to say, and they're all traveling together. Interesting. I feel like they could just send the messages on a train or something.
Shouldn't they be messenger pigeons and not passenger pigeons?
I know, but that's what I heard in my head, and so I just imagined it that way, where I was like, whoa, that's a lot of people sending messages to people.
Pigeons that no one could send messages with, so they were like literally just little pointless passengers on trains and everything, where they're like, get the
Maybe
hell
they're the
out of
ones
here.
that took all the things like little mosquitoes and like ticks and stuff to other places, or seeds and stuff were passengers on those pigeons, and diseases.
Kill them all! Kill all 1 billion of them.
1 billion.
But people, they're like, whatever, we don't care. They're hunting even more. All right, so 1833, the American Fur Company ships 43,000 buffalo hides, and they got these hides mostly from trading with indigenous groups. He calls them Native American. I don't know if that's still their preferred term for themselves.
Right.
I kind of slide back and forth between, I don't mean any offense, I'll try to use indigenous people because that's what people here like, I think. So, I hope. Anyway. Okay, so around this time, we see a rise in, like, nature appreciation and the idea of, like, beauty in the pristine land, and, like, people should be awed and humbled by... like the wilds. Remember in art history, Canadian art history?
I was just going to say.
The whole like Canadian National Park thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And it coincided, I think a lot of people were starting to do like mountaineering and mountain climbing.
Right.
The whole like conquering this majestic thing. And like photography was becoming a thing at that point. So they were actually able to capture this pristine beauty and whatever.
Yeah. That's exactly,
Okay, interesting.
And so in 1836, we have Ralph Waldo Emerson publishes Nature, one of the first writings to extol the inherent value of wildlife beyond its use for sustenance and profit. So there's already the sentiment there of like, maybe we should just leave this as it is.
But interesting that it's still such an outward, like, viewing it as something that's outside of ourselves, something to to look at because it's beautiful and it's got this like, you know, it's this beauty, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like actually know that, yes, it's beautiful, but it also like gives us clean water and gives us this. And if you work with it, it's got a whole system that's operating. Like,
exactly.
It's
and there's
keeping
at no
itself,
point are we
like,
connected to that.
Yeah, when we're not connected to it.
We're either dominating it or admiring it. Yeah. That's
crazy.
Okay, so this sounds kind of pointless, but it's, I think, pretty significant. 1842, there was something called like the public trust doctrine. So there was a case where the Supreme Court tells a guy he can't keep the public from taking oysters from his property. So the Supreme Court was interested in guarding the common and public right of fishing in navigable waters. So basically, it kind of made firm or set in stone, I guess, the idea of like in the U.S., wildlife and fish belong to everybody, to all the people, and we are all, well, they, I guess, are all responsible for the fish and wildlife, right? So
okay,
and each state is responsible for taking care of their fish and wildlife. So kind of created this sentiment of like an illegal almost kind of thing of like, no, you can't just control land how you want it. You can't tell people they can't fish or take oysters or whatever, but you also have to take care of the land. Does that make sense? Like it's kind of...
Okay, so that guy was complaining because he couldn't... People kept coming and taking oysters from from water that was on his land.
Yes, exactly.
And he was like, you can't do that. That's my water. Those are my oysters. Exactly. That's my land.
Yeah, get off my property kind of thing.
But then he was told, no, you can't do that because it belongs to everybody. But because it is your land, you are responsible for taking good care of it.
Exactly. So
interesting.
We can,
okay.
It's kind of, I don't know if I explained that entirely correctly, but whatever. In 1844, there was the New York Sportsmen's Club formed. Okay. And in 1848, they draft laws to regulate trout fishing and the hunting of deer and quail and such like that. So, like stuff like that. So, hunters, as much as I hate them and psychotic and stupid, they had a huge part in protecting certain land for hunting and conservation and keeping the numbers up, so they always have something to shoot, basically, which is weird. But
well, it's interesting though, because you know, a good friend of mine is a hunter, and she's like, I mean, it's not, she doesn't go out hunting all the time, but she was grew up around them, and it's very much like, she said, like, because her and I have had a lot of conversations about this, because I felt so conflicted about, like, I'm like, hunting is awful, and I was like, basically anybody who's a hunter is a psychopath. How can you look at a living creature in the eyes and kill it? Yeah. But she was saying that any real hunter, like a really legitimate hunter who's doing it to actually eat the food and like feed their families and that type of thing. Yeah. They know conservation, and they would never, like, they have this really good, or should have this really good, healthy respect for nature and have this deep understanding. And, you know, she was raised by people who were hunters, and she said this one man said to her, like, if you're not upset or if you're not crying and you're not, like, sad about taking this life when you're hunting, then you shouldn't be hunting. Like, that it's kind of like you have to have that side, because you have that. Yeah. Like, you don't want to be doing it, but you're doing it because you need to survive, you know, quote unquote survive, right? Yeah. Kind of thing. So it's actually, it's given me a different perspective on it.
And I think that's the difference. There's like sport hunting, I think, is different. So, and that to me, I don't agree with. It just makes no sense. Something, it's gross. But actual hunting. I have the same thing. It's like same with small scale butchers. You know, I was vegetarian for a really long time, and you know, I'm sad that there aren't like smaller butchers, because I wouldn't be so conflicted about eating meat, because I know that the smaller ones, they take care of the animals, and it's and they use every part. They know what to do with the whole part of the animal, and it's
they
just
kill them humanely, and like
it's not, and it's just such an honest livelihood. But so that was kind of, you know,
it's just an interesting thing of, because I was always conflicted and didn't understand how hunters could be seen as conservationists, because quite often when you look at conservation, all these hunting things come up, and I'm like, but aren't you against animals.
Yeah.
Like I viewed it so much as I'm for and you're against type thing. But
I know.
It was interesting being able to see it from a different perspective, where it's like, okay, maybe they do have an understanding of the conservation and the good ones who are doing it for the right reasons.
Exactly. Like Ducks Unlimited, they started, I think, as like Fowler something or other, because it was like, I'm pretty sure, like literally duck hunters, and
exactly.
It's kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
But okay,
anyway,
so
sorry.
back in time
so
a little
off
bit. That's
topic.
Okay. No, it wasn't. It's on topic. So in the 1860s and 70s, there was railroad expansion, and people went completely wild, shipping bison meat and hides left and right. They were killing. In 1865, they killed 1 million animals. Bison specifically. And in 1871, they killed 5 million. So it was a total slaughterhouse.
Holy cow.
In 1886, so let's go back. So 1865, they just killed 1 million, right? Then they had 5 million left. 1886, a census reveals that only 540 bison remain in the entire U.S.
What?
Yeah. Crazy, huh?
How? Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, so it just...
Even thinking about, like, their technology at that time. Like, that must have been so much work, right?
Well, yeah.
And that was, like, that's what they did, because it was a novelty and it was something new and everybody wanted it. It was a craze.
Yeah. I know. So
that's cool.
Most of the ones that were surviving were in the Yellowstone area. And so I don't know if he did this because of this or what, but in 1872, President Ulysses S. Grant establishes Yellowstone National Park. Okay. So the establishment of land, this comes up later, and it's a huge criticism of all of these kind of environmental kind of conservation things, is for the longest time people thought, let's set aside land, keep it pristine, keep humans out, so we can protect these species and habitats and blah, 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 which it's not that easy. It's not as simple as that. Most reasons animals are on endangered lists, it's not because they lost. It is obviously habitat loss, but there's like disease, agriculture, all kinds of reasons, right? Like it's not just that simple. So, it doesn't always work to just set aside land.
Also, like, a lot of those animals aren't used to being in one spot year round either.
They move.
They have to migrate. They move.
And
they that's
a huge
part
thing.
of how they live.
Yeah. 1872 was like the height of the Plains Wars. I Googled, and Plains Wars lasted like a long time. I think 1600s to 19. I don't know. It was
oh my God.
Thing. Yeah, it was a crazy amount. But the indigenous people were actually forced out of Yellowstone National Park land, like that area. So that comes up quite a bit. I found a few articles where they're fighting to, and some people are arguing to give all national park lands back to the Native Americans, like indigenous groups there.
Okay.
So that as kind of a reparation for them, which I think is interesting, because then they would take care of the land. They would be it would be their land back. But I mean, it's limiting, I think, because they couldn't develop it, I'm sure, and it might cause some problems if people want to keep using the land. But they say, but one indigenous man actually said that we always knew how to take care of the land and live and accommodate. No, sorry. This is the good point. He said, we've always known how to share with other people.
Yeah.
And kind of that, poke in the ribs of like,
obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you came here, European people, we saved you from scurvy and all this other stuff. So,
But it's something, though, for me that I have a really hard time with. And, I agree that, the indigenous people had way better, their religion, the way that they lived in equilibrium with the natural world is definitely something I wish that we all would go back to. Mm-hmm. That being said, we're all, at the end of the day, we're all humans. I just think there's only so much good that humans are capable. Well, this is getting really dark, but I just think it's a bit futile, and I think there definitely are, there are worse evils. There definitely are better options, having, the indigenous people really legitimately, take the land back and actually, do that would be great.
Yeah.
But
do they want to be stewards of all that land?
But that's
that
the
they
whole
can't
thing.
really
It's like the
develop
fact of the matter is,
know.
why can't they be business owners, and why can't they try to make as much money as they can? Like, why can't they have all of the options? Do they have to be restricted to, okay, this is your land and you have to, live in a teepee on it and, not have anything? Like, that's not fair either. They should be able to.
It seems like a lot of groups want it to happen.
Okay.
For whatever reason. So I'm like, you know what, if that's what you want, but there are so many different groups and so many different opinions and so many, right? So, I mean,
it's just humans
something
are
for
the
them
worst.
to decide.
That's my argument that I'm trying to make. All humans of like, we're varying degrees of the worst.
Agreed. So 1880s, we see a huge rise in clubs, conservation groups, and scientific groups.
Wow, already in the 1880s, hey?
Yeah. So we have League of American Sportsmen, the American Ornithologists Union, the Audubon Society, the New York Zoological Society, and the American Bison Society. These groups lobbied for stricter laws to stop market hunting for meat and hides and for feathers for the millinery trade. Millinery trade. That's such a hard word. They also fought for bans on wasteful sport hunting. So already we have interested groups stepping forward and saying, you know what, can we regulate some stuff here? Yeah.
That's really impressive, I have to say. That's way earlier than I would have anticipated it happening.
1887, Theodore Roosevelt and George Bird Grinnell, and I think some others, other influential hunter conservationists gather in New York to form the Boone and Crockett Club with the mission to preserve the big game of North America. George Bird Grinnell himself wrote about the decline of bison, and just generally society noticed the decline of like the passenger pigeon and whooping cranes and that kind of thing. So society was like taking note. There was mention of a guy named Aldo Leopold at this point. He became an associate member of that group, the Boone and Crockett Club. People consider him one of the fathers of the conservation movement.
Okay.
There's like a few websites for him. I'm not going into his story. If you guys want to look him up, his name again is Aldo Leopold. So, whatever.
His name sounds kind of familiar to me a little bit for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There were quite a few people that I kind of segued off into, and it just became this whole thing. I'm like, okay. Like the IUCN guy, one of the main proponents of the whole thing. Sorry, that's the international version.
International one, yeah.
Turns out he was all like into the whole eugenics thing, and I'm like,
oh my
nope,
God.
I'm out.
So many people were, though. Holy cow, was it ever a movement? Yeah.
So 1900s, the article guy, he said that it's basically the age of legislation. So there was a growing awareness of the need to protect natural resources and to take action to protect the wildlife and stuff, right?
Okay,
And so Congress enacted the Lacey Act of 1900. The full name is the Lacey Game and Wild Birds Preservation Act. It was the first federal law that regulated commercial animal markets. It became a federal offense to transport illegally taken wild game across state borders.
Whoa, cool.
So,
in
we have all this.
1900. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So 1901 to 1909, Roosevelt actually was a huge, really into this whole environmentalist kind of thing.
No way.
Right?
Okay.
Again, let's consider how many Native people they might have pushed off of the land, Native Americans, in doing this when I say the following. He set aside 230 million acres of land, including 16 national monuments, 55 wildlife refuges. Well, how do you say that?
Refuges? Oh, it sounds like you're supposed to say refugees, but...
Right?
Yeah.
And 5 national parks. So that's a lot of land, and people applaud him for it, but I'm like, whose land was that?
Who did that belong to before that? Wah, wah, wah. Oh.
In 1903, Pelican Island was established as the first national wildlife refuge. It protected birds from market hunters and habitat destruction. So there's more legislation, and for example, the U.S. and Great Britain signed a treaty called the Protection of Migratory Birds in the United States and Canada in 1916. It's funny that Britain had to do it for us.
Right? Yeah.
We're the queen's bitch. 1914, the last passenger pigeon dies in the Cincinnati Zoo.
Oh no, the passenger pigeons are extinct?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know? No. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, they're extinct.
They went from 1 billion to just one of them left. Oh my god.
Yeah, I forgot.
I'm devastated.
Oh my gosh,
that's why we didn't know what their name was.
That. Like, because I know the story so well. Like, I know that they're like the poster child of like the extinct.
Are they really?
Modern kind of thing. Yeah. Sorry. Oh my gosh, I didn't even like consider that. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. They're extinct.
Holy crap.
Okay, so.
Whoa. Okay, so wait. When did he see 1 billion of them? In 1860 or 70 or something? When he was on a train?
1813.
Oh, shit. Okay, 1813. And then when was the last one extinct?
1914. So 100
in
years
100 years?
Yeah.
They went from 1 billion just flying around in one section to one poor, pathetic one that was in a zoo by that point. Oh, boy.
His last words
really
were...
devastated. I wish I had been a messenger pigeon. If only I could carry a message.
Poor pigeon.
Oh.
Okay, so various little treaties
Debbie
and acts are being passed, like the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act in 1940. We'll get to that in a little bit. But, okay, we're getting to the big stuff now, like the whole crux of this Endangered Species Act. Ready? Mm-hmm. Am I over time? Oh, my God. Anyway.
No, you're great.
So more organizations were created even during the Depression, but during World War II, things really slowed down, obviously.
Right.
But right after that, it bounced back.
Okay.
People are like...
They're like, let's get back to it.
Care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just read this little blurb from that guy's thing. 1960s, I'm jumping to. Mm-hmm. The prosperous post-war era led to commercial development of land for housing and agriculture, as well as to the concentration of farming and livestock operations, and a loss of wildlife habitat. Liberal use of pesticides and herbicides greatly increased farming efficiency, but raised concerns about health and safety. So that's where a big shift in public thinking.
Right?
Yeah, so we have the way the land is managed is completely different. It's all convenient, but a nightmare for animals, and so people are noticing it, right?
Wow, okay.
Okay, in 1964, Congress establishes the Land and Water Conservation Fund to acquire land for the benefit of all Americans. But it's in the name of wildlife. It's not like, let's buy some land and give it to people. But the biggest shift happens in 1966. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service tried to prevent the extinction of certain species, but it lacked authority and funding. So Congress passed the Endangered Species Preservation Act on October 15th, 1966. Congress authorized the Secretary of the Interior to acquire land or interests in land that would further the conservation of these species. The Department of Interior published the first list of endangered species in March 11th, 1967.
Whoa.
It's called the Class of 1967. Refers to the very first list of endangered species given federal protection.
Whoa.
It included 14 mammals, 36 birds, 6 reptiles, 6 amphibians, and 22 fish.
Holy
A few
cow.
notable species listed on this 1967 list included the grizzly bear, the American alligator, Florida manatee, and the bald eagle.
No freaking way. Whoa.
Right?
Because those species, I mean, up here anyway, we've got grizzly bears galore and like bald eagles are flipping everywhere.
I think they're all like kind of the poster children of like successful comebacks.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Because alligators, for example, were just hunted to oblivion, but then they were like, can we just chill with the hunting? And now they're back to good numbers. And
okay, good.
Yeah, grizzly bear might be a little bit contentious. That might be the one where in some areas it's still problematic. I can't quite remember.
Well, I think in BC there's a big, like, all the controversy over the grizzly hunt, like them being allowed to hunt them because there were so many and blah, 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 all this stuff.
Right.
It's like really...
I know. Like, we can't have an abundance for 1 minute. Like, we just...
like, settle down.
And yet human abundance, human populations go completely unchecked.
No, let's keep everybody alive until we're 1,000,000,000,000 years old and we're all vegetables lying in some hospital somewhere.
And just keep having 7 babies each because, you know,
oh my God,
we have a right to have babies and we're right to life on. And it's kind of like, fine. I'm not saying to kill people, but I mean, I would rather have an abundance of grizzly bears. Thank you.
Me too. And maybe the human population would be a little bit more under control if there were more grizzly bears. Just taking us out.
Yes.
You know, left, right, and center.
Okay, you know what?
My dad lives in a small village in northern India, and he
still lives there?
Yeah, with COVID, he ended up staying there. Like, he didn't come back initially, and so he's just stayed there now for the last couple of years.
Oh, okay.
But every once in a while, he'll send us pictures of like a leopard. Like, they have a lot of leopards in that area, and they can be quite dangerous. So it's dangerous to walk at night because you can get attacked by a leopard or whatever.
Yeah,
but sometimes he'll send pictures of like, oh, the village guys like managed to kill a leopard. I'm like, why are you sending this to us? I don't want to see it. If anything, like, that leopard has every right to attack you guys. You're living in his land.
It's like fair game.
Fair game. And if you're like, I mean, I guess on the flip side is fair game. If the people can kill it, then fair enough. Like, whatever. But leopards don't have guns and they can't sit there like. It's like, you want to kill an animal, just try it with your bare hands.
Guns don't kill people. Wins. Leopards kill people.
Oh
no, I know. It's crazy.
Sorry, I keep getting so serious.
No, this is a serious topic. The list included only vertebrates at the time because the Department of Interior's limited definition of... They had a limited definition of fish and wildlife, so whatever.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this 1966 Endangered Species Preservation Act was fine, but it didn't actually include rules on, like, how to protect animals, really.
Okay.
So 3 years later, they renamed it. In 1969, they renamed it to just the Endangered Species Conservation Act. And they expanded it to create hunting restrictions. They authorized a list of threatened animals that faced worldwide extinction. They also prohibited the importation of threatened animals without a permit. Also, sea creatures and mollusks were added as protected creatures.
Oh, okay, cool.
So a little bit of something happens in 1969. An oil rig off the coast of California ruptures. It was the worst oil spill ever known at the time. 3 million gallons of oil ended up in the ocean.
Holy.
People found out that the U.S. government gave the company special permission to not follow safety regulations. If they had followed these regulations, the spill probably could have been avoided.
Which one
Nixon.
What spill was that? Was that Juan Valdez spill or whatever that is?
I'm not sure specifically.
Okay, it doesn't matter. It's just every once in a while you hear of these big ones, and I was wondering if that must have been the one that people refer to. Yeah. That's crazy.
So Richard Nixon, he saw the mess and also was like, I'm going to cash in on this moral sentiment.
Of course.
People were ticked. He saw that they were ticked, and he created or had a part in creating the Environmental Protection Agency in 1970. I'm pretty sure they have a sketchy story there, especially now. All the wheeling and dealing that they have to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it's actually a great agency. But anyway, anything that's tied to the government, I'm suspicious of, just because, not to be like that, not in a paranoid way, is just knowing how much wheeling and dealing is done. That the actual environment is pushed to the side, right?
I just think that's just the nature of, if you've got any big institution, which the government obviously is, there's only so much that they're able to do without also keeping in mind the interests of all the business people and of the landowners and of the
things that they tack on to bills of okay, disgusting. I'll help you pass this bill, but you have to tack this on, and it's tax
watching
credits to
House of Cards was
oh my gosh.
It was. I mean, I know it's a TV show, but still, it's
But I think it did a pretty good job of showing, because you hear about these things, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he also pushed Congress to pass the Endangered Species Act in 1973. So I think it's still just called that, the Endangered Species Act. It's pretty much unchanged after all this time. So we finally got to the act. We got to the whole lead up to it, right? And I just want to kind of explain it a little bit. So at the same time, like in 1973, the world came together. There was a convention on international trade in endangered species of wild fauna and flora. They gathered 80 nations to sign a treaty to regulate or prohibit international trade of endangered species, except by permit. So that was the international thing. But the U.S. created the Endangered Species Act so they could deal with domestic issues, right?
Okay.
So they had their own kind of stuff to deal with,
which makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. They included critical habitat, in quotation marks, which is defined as one that is vital to the survival of endangered or threatened species.
Okay.
This act also defined endangered and threatened, like we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah.
They made plants and invertebrates eligible for protection, which is very important, especially plants.
I was just going to say plants. That's a big one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think there's I think it was China, there's one, I think it was a pine tree. There's only 5 left. Hawaii, there were only 10 left of a certain flower. That's it. And then they're just done, right?
That's crazy.
Plants, I hope, are a little bit easier to save with cloning and everything. But anyway, they required they expanded on prohibitions. They required federal agencies to use their authorities to conserve the listed species. And they prohibited federal agencies from doing anything that would mess with the listed animals or their habitats. So it was just more meaty, and they were like,
right,
we need to make this act more clear and more the first year 78 species were added to the list. So I'm guessing added to that original list, that 1967 one. I wasn't too sure. Anyway, the original act is still mostly intact. Species saved by the act are the American alligator, bald eagle, peregrine falcon, and the brown pelican, among, I guess, some others. This is answering your question from earlier, only 1% of species on the list have been removed.
Oh.
And on average, it takes a species about 25 years to recover.
Wow.
So there are a lot of critics. I kind of with both the international, with any endangered species list, right? Mm-hmm. That's where my question was originally of how did this start? And I didn't really think too hard, but obviously there are the people who are against it, but they're the landowners and a lot of businesses where they're well,
because it's infringing on what they're able to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care about it. I don't believe in any of this livelihood garbage where it's I think that's just, you need to learn how to, so a lot of scientists still defend it. They say, even this one guy who was kind of criticizing it and saying, there's a whole article, it was really good actually, where he said it's a flawed system. It needs to be fixed because even though the Endangered Species Act helps prevent extinction, very few animal populations have actually bounced back.
Right.
To healthy numbers.
Right.
So
they're just trying to save them from getting to that critical thing. They're not necessarily putting enough into rebuilding and getting it back.
All right. So that was the origin of the endangered species list, kind of in the States, in America.
Right.
Right. So I think that, I don't know, gave me a better sense of why we created it. And
early start, that people were recognizing that from such an early time. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, we could debate if it's effective or not and blah, blah, blah. I think still it is quite effective. And I think it brings a lot of important awareness. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just want to wrap up by saying some of the animals from the very first list.
Okay.
So there was the Indiana bat, the timber wolf, grizzly bear, black-footed ferret, probably one of the most famous conservation stories of all time.
No way.
The Florida manatee, the Hawaiian goose, or the nene, California condor, the whooping crane, ivory-billed woodpecker, Caribbean monk seal, Cape sable sparrow, the American alligator, black toad, various trout species, and various pupfish species. So one article was 2013. They were the only one that's extinct off the list is the Caribbean monk seal. But that's not true. Now, I don't know if that all happened recently. I know the ivory-billed woodpecker was just declared extinct, I think, last year or this year, which kills me because that one, there's actual video footage of it, real, like from like black and white footage.
Oh, yeah.
That the guy was like, I don't know if I can't remember who he was studying them or something. But he was there and interacting with them.
I think you and I watched something like that together or something. Yeah.
And so people still to this day claim that they've seen them, you know, but I don't believe it. I think they are genuinely extinct. Yeah. But like, it's heartbreaking when you feel like you were so close to that animal.
Yeah.
Like pictures are one thing, but I don't know. But yeah, there were 4 just from that short list that were that are extinct now. So there's a bunch of Hawaiian birds that are extinct. The ivory-billed woodpecker, like I mentioned, and Bachman's warbler. Lots of birds. Aww. On a happy note, though, I want to end this on a good note. They recently cloned a black-footed ferret.
What?
Yeah. So it was the first ever cloned endangered species.
Oh my gosh.
The first cloned black-footed ferret, and her name, for some reason, is Elizabeth Ann.
What the hell? Why?
She was duplicated from the genes of an animal that died over 30 years ago.
Oh my God.
That one was, I think, Willa or something like that. Yeah, Willa. She died in 1988. They had her frozen remains, so they cloned her.
No way.
And yeah, she was born to just a domestic ferret because they didn't want to endanger the life of like a black-footed ferret. And there's no plans to release her into the wild, unfortunately. But but
she's like fine and like normal.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, aside from her stupid name,
and I think possibly the Przewalski's horse was some kind of horse. They did the same thing. They cloned one, and so cloning might actually be
helpful.
I mean, I guess
in that sense, the argument could be made of like, what's the point in bringing them back? We're just going to kill them anyway.
Exactly. Or there's no habitat to return them to.
Or there's no habitat. Like, there's a reason why they went extinct in that way. As awful as it is also the course of nature.
Can be a problem as well because, you know, like they're, so.
Wow.
But, I mean,
it's still cool. Sometimes. I think it's still cool that they're doing it. Like, why not? I mean, we do so many other stupid things. Why not? Like, bring.
Well, it's not like the woolly mammoth where really has no point to bring back, right?
Like,
awesome.
At least. I would freaking love to see a woolly mammoth in real life.
I found out that black-footed ferrets only eat prairie dogs.
What?
I didn't even know, right?
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I have a really awful story about prairie dogs, but I won't. I'm not gonna. This episode has been dark enough, I feel.
I know. Can't we end it on let's end one episode on a happy note?
No.
I've had enough of your nursery rhymes. What now?
Oh my gosh, that was so cool. I feel like every episode I feel like I learned something, but this was like, I legitimately really learned something. It was cool. I mean,
I forget everything we talk about, unfortunately. I was sitting there for about 10 minutes wondering what was Barbie, the original Barbie's name, like the German one. I'm like, I don't remember.
Built Lily. Ow.
Yeah, see, you remember. And I'm going to forget about the Endangered Species Act. Tomorrow I'll be like, who am I again? But next season, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to expand my horizons. I'm going to try to.
That's going to be cool.
I'm going to offend so many people with my pronunciations, my Western-centric views. It's going to be horrible.
Hey, you're not doing it right if you aren't offending people.
Right.
That's my theory.
I have to do it, though. I need to expand my...
Yeah.
Because the rest of the world exists. I can't believe that there's only,
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. There's so much. And, so much stuff started in other areas of the world. So, if
anyone's listening and they're like, you know what? I'm from this little country that nobody knows about, and guess what we invented? Or,
like, Fiji
did you know
person,
that this started
tell us
in
what
this?
you invented.
Don't pretend you stopped listening to us after our first lousy recording, all right?
Yeah.
You're still there.
We
see you.
We get really creepy. We're watching you as you listen. Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, well, I'm going to go play with a Rubik's Cube. I'm sure I've got someone somewhere.
Nice.
No, I don't.
I'm going to go cry over extinct animals. No, I'm kidding. I'll rejoice over the animals that we're saving.
Yay!
No. Oh, no. I'm going to eat more gingerbread. Oh. That's That's more important.
That is more important. I'm going to go drink some eggnog. Yummy. Okay, guys. Well, we've got some really special episodes. We've recorded them already because we're taking some time off over the holidays, but don't you worry. You're going to have a new episode each week going forward. We've got a special Christmas holiday episode that's super fun. Yay. And then our really special New Year's episode that is also super fun.
Bear with us. We're still working out the kinks of the sound and audio a little bit. Yeah, the
sound's a little crazy on one of them, but listen to it anyway. It's worth it. It's really funny.
It is.
It's like one of our best episodes, I think, the Christmas one.
I think so, yeah.
But yeah, and as always, you can follow us on Instagram. We are at podcast.or.something. So definitely give us a follow. We'd love to hear from you if you've got like fun facts about things, or, send us a message if you've got a suggestion for things you want us to cover. That could be really fun. And yeah, that's all. We'll talk to you next week. Or something. Exactly. That's it. Or something. Okay, bye guys.
All right, bye. You're first, by the way.
Yes. Actually, I don't like being first. I like being second. Do you like being first?
No. Wait, do I? No.
You like being second? You like being warmed up? Do you like going at all?
No. No.
I was trying to throw out another option. I'm like, there's only one other option.
No, because I keep changing what I like. I'm like, did I say that last week? Because... No, I like when you go first, because then I'm not just sitting here thinking, like, getting all excited, like, what's she going to talk about? Like, I just get to hear it.
That's true. Yeah. You get the entertainment part over with.
Over with?
Let's say this fun time over with already. Okay, shush. You
were the one.
The rules don't apply to me. My house, my rules.
Shocking.
Don't cry.
Stop.
I can't help it.